Hello guys, and let's talk about serious problems that Russia experiences with the basic daily products. Recently, I've reported about the need to fix prices similar to the Soviet times command economy, but now they report officially that in 2025 Russia needed to buy more products abroad than it actually exported. This is something that changed for the first time in a decade and definitely demonstrates a total collapse of different branches of Russian industry and agriculture. And with this video, I want to remind you that the size of Russia does not mean that the country is strong or invincible. Ukrainian forces clearly demonstrate how vulnerable this very unnaturally vast territory is and that it was totally unprepared for the war of attrition. And whenever we speak about the attrition, we should not think that Ukraine will be the one to exhaust first. It seems like Russia is on the brink of the collapse, and personally, I'm praying that Donald Trump does not save them in Alaska this Friday. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the defeat and demilitarization of Russia, and trust me, that's the only working peace plan, subscribe, I'm sure we will discuss that on the channel. So let's start with this very important updates that are coming from the Russian economy sector. I know many Russian trolls keep saying you've been talking about that for quite a long time, but I am sorry, a year is definitely not quite a long time, and the situation speeds up, no matter how hard they try to stop the inflation and strengthen the ruble. All of these efforts they are making in the Russian central bank, especially after the comments about the inflation, the recession, and Putin's absence of any reaction, they need to solve the situation applying old Soviet rules. For example, fixed prices that actually makes the Russian economy a command economy they had back in the USSR. And that brings us to traditional Russian queues, traditional Russian poverty, but also serious shortages of the basic products. If we look at the draft of the law that the Russian parliament is preparing for March, it's pretty obvious that they want to fix the prices for the basic products like dairy, like vegetables and poultry. Perhaps this is the main part of this consumption basket, if you have a similar term in your languages. And if the prices are fixed, the losses are very serious for the agricultural producers, and they are already protesting about that, but protesting in that very typical Russian manner, saying how bad everything is and preparing to go bankrupt. And the fixed prices are supposed to slow down the inflation that is seriously growing, but we should not forget about one very important element, that together with this command economy, serious shortages of products are coming because fewer and fewer producers are prepared to sell their products for such prices, or for example, they simply go bankrupt and they literally don't have anything to offer to the consumers. You know, tomorrow I have my birthday and I'm not hiding my age. I was born on the 13th of August 1984, and that gives me 6-7 years in times of the Soviet Union. I don't have very many memories about that period, but I do have a very vivid collection of my memories of me standing with my mom in really long queues waiting to buy one product. This is something your children cannot imagine, that back in 1990, for example, in a grocery store, you can actually have one product on the shelves. For example, it is all butter, or the next day it is all sugar. That was life before the collapse of the USSR, and that is life in Russia before the collapse of the Kremlin regime. Stop being afraid of that. Stop thinking that Russian war in Ukraine is about territories. Russia is the largest country in the world. It does not need any new territories. It wants to break the world order with the help of China and Iran, and to break the democratic world. But they will fail because, let's be serious, what Russia offers, that lifestyle, food prices, anything is something no one wants to copy, no one wants to experience in Switzerland, Brazil, or France. Please subscribe and share these videos to demonstrate your solidarity with Ukraine and help us fight against Russian disinformation and Russian propaganda. Unfortunately, they still spoil a lot of things, and I'm very worried that the White House right now is definitely under the influence of the Russian propaganda machine. It's quite difficult and quite unexpected to debunk myths of Russia coming from the White House, like the invincibility of the Russian army when literally Russia does not control its borders, when Russia does not control its airspace, when all of their oil refineries are on fire, they have shortages of fuel, they order North Korean soldiers and donkeys to the front lines. Please remember about that when thinking about the end of this war, and no one in Ukraine will accept, concession of our territories or changes in our constitution, thus opening the Pandora box for other authoritarian nuclear regimes to attack budding or developed democracies on their borders. And another proof that Russia is incapable of living in a modern world of competition is the fact that they started importing more products than they actually produce or export. This happened for the first time in 6 or 10 years, and it's interesting that they have to import potatoes and butter, and also all in the context of stealing Ukrainian grain, Ukrainian harvest on the temporarily occupied territories. They are committing so many crimes against humanity that it is just insane to think that the American soil will let Putin step on it. Let me know what do you think about this meeting in the comments below, because personally I still cannot accept it as a part of our reality. And somehow I want to believe that the American people don't like this idea too, even if they support Donald Trump. Because unfortunately there are no good Russians. Watch my video on the new channel where I explain why. I'm not speaking about individuals, I'm speaking about these real groups, movements, parties, clubs that do not exist. And honestly, a serious work should be done with the Russian population after the defeat of the Kremlin to turn them into a civil society. And today we actually mark the 25th anniversary, if I'm not mistaken, of the tragedy of the Kursk submarine. It happened at the very beginning of the Putin's career, and perhaps it was a sign of what kind of person he is. And I do remember Margaret Thatcher speaking about him as a villain, and she was right, because a crew was alive when something happened on board of that Kursk submarine, and Putin personally decided not to organize a rescue operation. And a lot of countries like Sweden, I'm sure many more, offered their help. And they could actually come to that military submarine. They could save the crew, they knew how to do it, they had the technology, but Putin chose not to. And these people were dying at the bottom of the sea under the pressure of its waters, literally online. Later, when the Russians were able to reach them, they received the letters written by those sailors to their families because they literally ran out of air. And that was during the very first months of Putin's rule 25 years ago. And during these 25 years, Putin killed way too many people for Donald Trump to shake hands with him. I think it's pretty obvious and nothing will change my opinion. Thank you so much for all the support and ideas that you provide in the comments. I always read them. That's a blessing, and I'm very grateful that we have our community. It helps me remain sane in this very absurd world, and I hope it works the same for you, because I do want me and us to be useful for you in your everyday life. Thank you so much for being friends. Subscribe to my X, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, Discord. All the links in the description of this video, same as the link to my merch shop, where we have a lot of good items that help you become our ambassadors, and Ukraine needs ambassadors around the world. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel. Remember to subscribe to new Anna Danilchuk channel, where we have this like discussion format, and actually I'm thinking about the introduction of new kind of series there. So if our community grows bigger, I will definitely start that. But thank you once again for being friends of mine and friends of Ukraine. Together we are definitely stronger. That's why united we stand. Slava Ukraini!